Well, good evening everyone. I hope you've had a good weekend and you enjoyed the Wimbledon Sporting Memories quiz. I've got the answers ready now, and this is where obviously a lot of your nostalgia is going to come when you say, oh yeah, I remember that one now. I'll go through it as usual. I'll repeat the question, I'll give the answer and maybe a little bit of background as well. Okay, so if you're all ready to go, let's go back to question one and see what the answer was, and see how many you got right. Number one said, how many times has Andy Murray won the Wimbledon tournament, the Wimbledon singles tournament? So the answer we were looking for question one was twice. Andy Murray has conquered the men's singles title two times. The first was 2013 and the more recent one 2016. So amazing that he won the two. So great for British tennis, of course. So twice is your answer for number one. Number two, how many Wimbledon men's singles titles has Roger Federer won? So we were looking for 8. He's won it 8 times, would you believe? And I'll just go through them for you. He won it in 2003, 04, 05, 06, 07, 09, 2012, and most recently 2017. So quite a long span of years he's amassed there. Incredible winning streak. So let's see if he can do any more. So Roger Federer has won the men's singles title at Wimbledon a full 8 times. Number 3, who won 3 consecutive championships and was the last British man to win Wimbledon until Andy Murray won it? Well, the answer to this question is Fred Perry. Do you remember that name? Oh yes, Fred Perry. And Fred Perry, we're going back to the 1930s there, 1936, and obviously Andy Murray, as we've said, 2013 and 16. So your answer there is Fred Perry. Number 4, see if you can get this one. Who holds the record for most victories in the ladies singles with a full 9 titles? Who holds that record? And the answer we were looking for is, yep, Martina Navratilova. Did you get that? Martina Navratilova, 9 victories. She won 6 consecutively from 1982 through to 1987, and then she picked up the rest of them, 7, 8 and 9, obviously going into the 1990s. Out of interest, Steffi Graf won 7, so she's not too far behind, but Navratilova with a huge 9 Wimbledon titles. Amazing. Number 5, which Swede was 5 times men's singles winner from 1976 until 1980? Who pulled off that pretty amazing feat, really? The answer we were looking for number 5 was Bjorn Borg. Bjorn Borg was the Swedish man winning Wimbledon's titles from 76 till 1980. Bjorn Borg. Number 6, a little bit harder I think this one. Which American was a 7 times losing Wimbledon women's singles finalist? That's pretty grim, isn't it? Getting to the final 7 times and losing 7 times. The answer we were looking for was Chris Evert. Chris Evert. Now, she did actually win Wimbledon as well a number of times. She won Wimbledon 3 times as singles, 1974, 1976 and 1981. And overall, she won a whopping 18 Grand Slams. So even though she lost in the Wimbledon final 7 times, she still pulled off a stunning 18 Grand Slam titles in tennis. Quite incredible. Number 7, a bit tricky this one I think. 1980s men's final between Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe was famous for its 4th set tiebreaker. But what was the score of that monumental tiebreaker? What was that? Well, it went to a whole 18-16 and McEnroe took the tiebreak. So he took that set. So, but overall, Bjorn Borg came out victorious. So although McEnroe did take an epic tiebreak, Borg went on to win his Wimbledon title. So the answer is the tiebreak 4th set went to a monumental 18-16 to McEnroe. That's number 7. Number 8, got 18 on the mind, haven't I? Number 8. How old was Boris Becker when he beat Kevin Curran to win the 1985 Wimbledon singles men's title? How old was he? Well, he was only a young 17-year-old. That is young, isn't it? Winning Wimbledon at 17. If you want an actual day, he was 17 years and 228 days. So that was an amazing achievement. A lot of people said at the time he'd won it too young. He'd already won probably the most prestigious prize in tennis. At 17, did he really know what that meant? He did go on to win it again. So that's number 8. Boris Becker was 17. Number 9. Which famous former tennis great is Steffi Graf married to? Which famous former tennis great is Steffi Graf married to? And it is Andre Agassi. Andre Agassi, who himself won the Wimbledon singles title in 1992. Now between them, between Steffi Graf and Andre Agassi, they amassed a whopping 30 Grand Slam titles. That's pretty incredible. So Steffi Graf retiring from tennis in 1999 and Agassi following a few years later in 2006. So that was number 9. Number 10, going back to the 90s with Pete Sampras. So the question reads, Pete Sampras dominated 1990s at Wimbledon, winning the men's title every year from 1993 to 2000, but he did not win 1996. So who won it that year? Do we know? And the answer is Richard Krajicek of the Netherlands. Richard Krajicek of the Netherlands, the only Dutchman to have won the Wimbledon title, and he defeated Sampras in the quarterfinals of that year, meaning Sampras did not go on to win it that year. So number 10, Richard Krajicek. Number 11, how many Wimbledon singles titles have Venus and Serena Williams amassed between them? How many is it? Well, the answer to that is 12. Huge number, 12. If you want the breakdown, Venus won 5 titles, 2000, 01, 05, 07 and 08. But Serena's won 7 titles, 02, 03, 09, 10, 2012, 2015 and more recently 2016. So they also have met 4 times in previous finals. So the answer to the number 11 is 12. They've shared 12 titles. Question 12 now. Goran Ivanisevic won the Wimbledon men's singles title in 2001. But who did he memorably beat in the semi-final? And the answer we're looking for is Tim Henman. Tim Henman was defeated in the semi-final. Now, I don't know how many of you remember this, but it was it ended up And Tim Henman, I can remember, had the upper hand. He was a set ahead, I think it was. Rain kept interrupting. They carried on, but eventually they had to stop the match. And it really felt that Tim Henman had the momentum to go on and win it. But sadly, the match was stopped. When it was restarted, it seemed to have lost all his momentum. Ivanisevic then came back at him, and the rest is history. Interestingly, on another point, with Goran Ivanisevic, he's the only person to have won the men's singles title with a wildcard entry. So, might come up in your pub quizzes. So just want to make a note of there that Goran Ivanisevic is the only person to have won the men's singles titles on a wildcard entry. Interestingly, if you want to know who did Goran beat in the final that year, it was Pat Rafter. It was Pat Rafter he beat in the final. Number 13. In a Wimbledon match regarded by many as probably the greatest in the history of tennis, at what time did Rafael Nadal epic victory over Roger Federer in 2008? What time did it end? Well, for those of you who watched it that year, you'll remember that light was starting to fail. And the game ended in close to darkness, really. It was 21:15. That puts it at 9:15 p.m. And it was played to a finish. So yeah, one of the latest final finishes, obviously. It was Nadal's first Wimbledon title, interestingly. And that means Nadal has won 2 Wimbledon singles titles, but his preferred venue does seem to be the French Open, of which he has amassed 12 men's singles titles at the French Open. Pretty impressive. Number 14, we're going back in time, probably to the 1970s here. How many Wimbledon singles titles did Jimmy Connors win? So he was quite dominant in the 70s. He had that really loud grunt. I don't know if you can remember that. He was very vocal on the court. Well, he won 2 singles titles, 1974, 1982. So quite far apart in years. So yeah, Jimmy Connors won Wimbledon singles twice. That leads us to the final question again. Comes around quick, doesn't it? Number 15. Which female tennis player dominated Wimbledon in the late 60s and early 70s with 6 singles titles? Who could that be? The late 60s into the early 70s. Well, it was Billie Jean King. Do you remember her? Billie Jean King? So Billie Jean King won Wimbledon in 1966, 1967, 68, 72, 73 and 75, by which time people like Chris Evert, Martina Navratilova were starting to take over the crown, really. She also won 10 titles in women's doubles and 4 Wimbledon titles in mixed doubles. So a phenomenal tennis player. So that brings us to the end of the Wimbledon quiz, questions and answers. I hope you've enjoyed that little trip down memory lane. A lot of people have a lot of nostalgia around Wimbledon, with it being our own tennis tournament. And I'm sure a lot of those names I've read out have got you feeling a little bit nostalgic now for a bit of tennis or a bit of Wimbledon. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a good weekend, and I look forward to joining you again next week with another Sport in Memories quiz. Bye bye for now.